Hello everybody, welcome once again to Golarion Illuminated. I am Michael T. Bradley.
I am Jason Freston.
And we are going to now do a two-part series on the factions of the Pathfinder Society organized play. Obviously these factions exist in Golarion in general, but we're going to be focusing specifically on them in Pathfinder Society organized play. Let me talk just for a moment about what that is exactly. Much like the RPGA and Living Forgotten Realms, things like that, Pathfinder Society Organized Play exists as a way for Paizo to check in and see who's playing what and who's interested in what and da-da-da-da-da, and you can play and report in for points, different types of points. Maybe we'll go into that later. But it's just a way that you can take a character that's legal, that you have registered online, take it to any convention, any nearby place that's running a society play. Just go to paizo.com/Pathfinder Society, find a game near me, and there might be one running nearby. Pretty simple directions in the free-to-download guide to organized play that you can use to make a character, and step one is choosing a faction. So we're going to go through those factions, and we are going to start with Taldor. On the map,
Taldor.
There's Taldor, and very importantly, there is Absalom.
Right here.
Pathfinder Society, everything starts in Absalom. That's where the, are the Decemvirate actually there? Or
yes.
is it just, yeah.
Yep.
So they're there, and the main guild lodge thing is there as well. So Taldor, now obviously since Golarion is has a huge history, multifaceted, and everything kind of ties in together, this is difficult to talk about pulling them apart from each other, but we're going to go into it at least a little bit more than the Guide to Organized Play does, and hopefully give you reasons why you would want to play each one. So let's start with Taldor. Tell me about the history of Taldor.
Taldor is one of the oldest nations in the Pathfinder Society play. Quadira technically is probably a bit older, but we won't quite get into that. But Taldor is definitely huge. It actually encompassed from here almost all the way over to the coast. To present-day Cheliax. So they're a very ancient empire that is now currently a marginal size of what it used to be and is in steady decline. So, but yes, at one point in time, Taldor had Andoria and Cheliax.
All right, so obviously tied in very strongly there. How did whichever of these separated first? How did that happen?
Both Cheliax and Andoran actually kind of separated more or less at the same time from Taldor during Cheliax's Even-Tongue Rebellion, I believe it was called. I might be getting that name quite a little wrong. It's the Even-Tongued something. I believe it's the Rebellion, which is more or less a bloodless rebellion. Cheliax ended up withdrawing from Taldor, and Andoran kind of ended up going with it at the time. So
okay. So let's talk about Taldor.
And I believe Andoran at that point in time, was also more or less still affiliated with Cheliax. They were not quite the same nation, but they were pretty.
So was it
pretty tied together?
So was it a thing where Cheliax separated from Taldor and then Andoran separated from Cheliax?
That comes later.
Okay, but I mean that is the progression of it.
But that is the progression.
Okay,
yes.
so at first we have Taldor, which is all of this, and then Cheliax separates all of that.
Yeah, more
essentially.
or less. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, dealing with Taldor in its present state, why would someone want to choose Taldor as their faction?
Taldor is old school. I mean, it's about almost as old school as you can get. They are definitely, while they're decadent, which they really are, that was one of the things that led to their well, they're not quite at the downfall yet, but down to their decline. There's also a certain type of regalness that goes with that. There's the sense of that old world mentality of tradition of maybe not necessarily style and flair, although the Taldor does have that as well. But there's that old world Europe feeling. Like if you're wanting to be playing a little bit more of a, what's a good example of that?
I immediately think of two things. One, the second half of the Rise and Decline of Ancient Rome.
Okay, yeah.
And really Eurotrash 80s villains where they keep up the kind of like, you know, they're on their yachts sipping tea and everything, but they're running drugs.
Yes, and that's definitely something Taldor would do, but you also can kind of go the opposite side with it too, where they're not necessarily drug runners, but that same type of you know, we have tradition to keep up with. I have my honor at stake, and I have to be able to make sure that people realize that. So
So
Basically, Taldor has a great sense of egotism and pride in what they do, which can be very fun to play. So,
all right, cool. And any other little like character pops about Taldor, places within it that might just be fun things to read about in? Hopefully, they're in.
They're in this.
The Taldor Echoes of Glory, the Pathfinder Companion. There are, of course, Pathfinder Companions for all 5 of the factions. Oh, and speaking of the 5 factions, there will come August 2011, is that right? There will be 10 factions and rules for moving between the factions, but as of right now, we don't know any of those new factions. One of them has like a keys sigil.
Yeah.
But beyond that, that's all we know at this point. We'll probably go into more on those once those are released and they talk about them. But for now, so let's move on to Cheliax. Would that make sense?
Cheliax would make sense. Yes, alright, so Cheliax ended up leaving Taldor, basically because Taldor wasn't quite able to defend its borders. Basically, there was like a lot of political reasons for Cheliax to withdraw from Taldor, and because Taldor was otherwise occupied with Quadira at the time, Cheliax was able to basically get away with withdrawing scot-free on it. Cheliax kind of has a rocky history in the sense that after Eridan dies, then they go through a rough 60 years, I think it is, if I remember off the top of my head, where the noble houses are fighting, trying to figure out who's going to be in charge, because their god's dead, and they were totally, basically their plan was when he came back, they were going to be able to recapture all of the old glory of Taldor. And with that not happening, then they were kind of at a struggle and a loss of identity, a national identity. Of course, obviously, by the end of, we know by the end of that infighting, the House of Thrun ends up taking supremacy and, start worshipping Asmodeus. So, Asmodeus? Asmodeus.
So is that...
And that's what basically kicks Andoran out. I think they give them Cheliax like about 4 years and be like, holy crap, these guys, they're
devil worshippers.
Devil worshippers.
So is the Asmodeus worshipping similar to the Tree Raiser kneeling that the Drow did? Like, is it a protection thing?
No.
Okay.
It was a protection thing in the sense of he backed the House of Thrun, and because of that, they were able to basically seize control of it.
Yeah.
So it is a different thing than the Drow. When the Drow ended up kind of going to their demon worshipping, it was much more of like a this or die type of a feeling, where with Cheliax, it was just like one family made a deal, and that deal got them on top of the heap.
Gotcha. Okay. So any other... so here's the thing that's kind of tough about Cheliax, I know, in the factions. When you do organized society play, even though Seeker of Secrets makes a big deal talking about how the society doesn't care about your alignment, you can't play evil, and that's mostly, I think, to stop party infighting.
Yeah.
Cheliax, however, is, I believe, lawful evil, correct?
Yes.
But
that's kind of lawful, and that's the important key to this. But yeah,
right. So that's kind of the key, I think, to thinking of Cheliax is strict law abiding, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So basically, is that the main reason one would want to play Cheliax? Strict law abiding.
That is one of the good reasons. There's also that kind of fun anti-hero thing that you get. You're willing to the ends justify the means type of a deal, which is really nice. It's also kind of rare that you can play the devil worshipper and actually still kind of be the good guy. But mind you, all of the devil worshipping stuff happens kind of at the higher echelons of society. It's the official religion for the entire nation. But on your day-to-day, that your average villager, your average peasant, your average city person doesn't do that. They pay lip service because they have to, or they will be killed, but they still follow their own gods and do things. That's another kind of that fun conflict that goes on in there, is everybody has to bow down and worship at the state's religion, but everybody really bow down and also worships their own.
Now, is Asmodeus actually, like, physically in Cheliax? No. Or no, they just worship him as a different... So it's kind of like a state religion more than like a state... more than like a demonocracy or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. And fun things about Cheliax we mentioned before, the fact that their laws are rewritten every few months.
Every 3 months, I believe it is. They end up just piling out a whole new law book. You have to turn in the old ones, which that can kind of be interesting too, because it means if you're from Cheliax, there's a chance in 3 months you may be in a history book. So that's kind of fun. So
Any other fun things about Cheliax?
they have the Hell Knights, which is just another one of those kind of fun anti-hero things, and you can be a Hell Knight. Come on, so
I wouldn't want to be a Hell Knight.
Yeah.
That's how I always try to sell Cheliax on new players, is like, devil worshippers. Come on.
yeah, seriously.
So then our last is Andoran. So they separated from Cheliax essentially because of the devil.
Yeah. For some reason they did not take quite so kindly on it. But to be fair, Andoran was always a very independent nation, subsect of Taldor to begin with. They were always like kind of pushing the boundaries on what they could do within the nation, and so them leaving Cheliax was probably honestly more a matter of time, even without that. So
Okay, so why would someone want to play an Andoran?
Andoran is really, I think, probably the closest thing to what we ourselves think of when it comes to a nation. They're experimenting with democracy, so you kind of have that sense of like, USA with them. But on the flip side, on the darker side of that, you can also go with they're very what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, hey, yeah, we missed Cheliax, thank you. Andoran is also, they're very rebellious, and they're willing to do things to keep their independence, and sometimes those things can be frowned upon by other nations. So you kind of also have that darker side to Andoran as well, which is nice. Pretty much every nation has kind of, a good side and a dark side to them, depending on how you want to play it.
Right, which they're kind of presented in their books as freedom fighters, and I always try to tell people to get them excited about it. They're anarchists.
Yeah, anarchist, and
which if you read the prestige missions, which is what you do related to your faction and society play, they aren't really that very anarchist that much. They're much more freedom fighters, but
they can be anarchists. That concept is there if it's something you're wanting to play with. But like I said, aside from that, the things that your average modern, at least modern person kind of think of that's in a society is there, or at least they're experimenting with that type of thing.
Okay, any other just little fun things about Andoran?
I wish I could think of something off the top of my head with them, but I can't actually. So,
all right, cool.
Anything you can think of on it? Because I hate to leave on a note, because I don't want to just say I dislike the Andor.
The only thing that I can think of is the fact that they have said that Andoran is the most popular faction.
That's
true.
That is
the one that through season 2 has been played the most and gotten the most points. So there's that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back next time to talk about specifically Qadira and Osiren, however it's pronounced.
We might do a tomato thing throughout that one, because I pronounce it Osiren, but yeah.
Or perhaps a fist fight.
Yeah.
All right, until next time, I'm Michael T. Bradley.
And I am Jason Freston.
Thank you for joining us for Golarion Illuminated.
He backed the House of Thrun,
No, I totally thought you were going to say he backed that ass up.
Okay. Yes,
that
you
wouldn't make any sense.